This podcast is brought to you by Hoare Chartered Accountants. Hoare Chartered Accountants are based in Galway City and are a leading provider of audit, accountancy and taxation services. For more information, visit hoarecharteredaccountants.ie.
Oh, you're welcome along to the Maroon White Pod. I'm joined by county final winning manager Cathal Clancy. First off, Cathal, county final winning manager, how does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good, Paul. Thanks very much. Sounds better than having lost another one anyway. But look, I suppose when you start out at the start of the year, if you can get to this week, the last week in October, and you've won, I think anyone will take that. So yeah, we're just delighted now, delighted.
The emotions are obviously a lot different. I'd say they're uncomparable considered to the last 2 years now this week.
Oh God, yeah. Heaven and hell now, almost literally. Like the margins are so fine, and we even saw that ourselves on Saturday night with the way the game unfolded. It genuinely could have gone either way, and it can shape not only your weekend and your next week, but the whole year. Because I know in the last 2 years now, the disappointment to losing, as it is on the day is one thing. Actually, it nearly gets worse in the following few weeks. And you're watching whoever wins it goes on further into Connacht and play games. And just as the year goes on, then you start back in January doing a bit and back on the pitch in February. And it seems like a long, long way back, especially when you've lost it. So yeah, such a contrast to have won it. So delighted with that.
How have the last few days looked for you?
Well, I don't want to go into too much detail now for some of the younger lads, but for me anyway, I suppose the unusual thing was about how late it finished on Saturday night. Now, look, the actual event or the night itself was brilliant. The lights, the atmosphere, the crowd. We actually got fairly decent weather if you compare it to some of the days before and after. We actually got the best of the weather, really. And then with the junior game going into extra time, the game gets pushed back to 8. So I think by the time we left Pearse Stadium, got in the cars and headed out to Maigh Cuilinn, it was after 11 o'clock, I think. So in terms of celebrating or anything like that, there was a bit of reception in the village when we came home, and everyone piled into the pubs then from the team. But the actual the night that night just flies by really, because you're so jaded, and it's such a late finish. So Sunday then was the day where the team very much got to get together and enjoy it and celebrate, and the whole parish was out in full force and everyone was enjoying themselves. And by the time Monday morning rolled around now, my celebrate was over, and I'd say some of the younger lads on the team probably kept it going another bit longer. But look, just for the parish and for the village and for everyone, it's been a strange year. There's been, lots of sad loss, and obviously with Don, but even there's just in the days in the lead up to the weekend, a young fella from Maigh Cuilinn, Dylan McDermott, died abroad. Very sad. His dad Tom and his brothers would be heavily involved in the hurling club and well known in the GA circles in Maigh Cuilinn. So you have that going on, and just other little things. Everyone has their own things going on. So if it felt like if there was a year where a lift or a boost was needed, this was the one. And in that sense, it was just huge to get over the line.
I was chatting to David after the game, and he was talking about the resilience in this group. But for you yourself, what do you think, I suppose, kept this group and kept this management together? I know you've lost two or three players as well with this, but what do you think kept you together? Because two county final defeats in a row, it was obviously very hard. And when you look back to those moments, what do you think kept everything together?
That's good question, Paul. I suppose there's so many different elements to it. In To begin with, I just think there's a brilliant bunch of lads there. Like, we have a really driven bunch of lads, and rightly or wrongly, Corofin 100% deserved their 2 wins over us in the last 2 years. But we also felt ourselves, I think every losing team in Salthill will be in the same place this week. We felt we weren't that far away. There are games, if we'd done little things differently, we could have won. So in that sense, it helps you G yourself up for the next year. As I said, they're a brilliant bunch of lads. Yeah, we lost a few, but we've brilliant young lads coming in through. I think that's that's a big part of it as well. You're getting a new enthusiastic bunch of young lads coming through, and they're looking to drive it on. And there's lads that are maybe in that squad for a couple of years, and they're looking to break onto the team. I think that's a big part. And probably the last part is just where, in my case anyway, in the management team, like, we're just football mad, and what else would you be doing? So it's hard to lose a county final and get back on the horse. But sure, look, there's 15 other teams out there every year that have some sort of hard luck story, whether it's losing at a semi-final, quarter-final, group stage, or relegation. So look, at the end of the day, there's only one team that comes out of it really happy with what happened, and the other 15 are trying to get back on the horse. And I suppose for us, just that mix of all them things, we were able to get back and win it. But like, I do think a large part of it goes back to the group of players we have and how they drive it, because ultimately that's what makes it possible for us.
Was that hurt carried over from the last 2 years into this year, or is it something that do you feel you can only carry it to a certain point?
Genuinely, I know people don't always believe this, but like, there was so little made in throughout the whole year, really, of the losing the two county finals. It didn't even come up in the build up for us. Like, maybe that's because it was just felt like a whole new occasion with Salthill, and it was in Pearse Stadium this year. It had been in Tuam last year, so it wasn't referenced at all. I think, if Anton, we just have the experience of being there and being on that, in that big game, and even little things. It didn't affect the timing of it last year, but the game before us down in Tuam ended up going to extra time last year, Killearn and Carrow. And so you have these experience. So I think we just looked at it as experience. We'd been there and won it as well. So I think if you hadn't won it previously, that probably might be something that it'd be a much bigger factor on your mind. In our eyes, we'd been to four, we'd won two, lost two. This was a fifth, and we just need to go and win it. So it wasn't something that played into it much at all in the lead up to it.
When you look back on it, Carl, before 2020, obviously hadn't got over the line, but when you look at it now, 3 county titles in 6 years, 5 county finals in 6 years, it's remarkable when you consider, obviously you weren't there very often before that, and to consider what's been achieved since 2020, like you obviously played, and there's obviously, I'm sure, some dark days before this, but it's unbelievable record.
Oh yeah, like in many ways, it's kind of unbelievable. If you were to transplant any one of us that are there, I'm involved since 2018 in terms of the backroom team. If you're to transplant any of us back to 2019, we lost the semi-final to Tuam, having been 5 points up at half time. And if you were to tell us that day that we'd go on to have that record you just mentioned there, I don't think we could have believed it. I played for years for Maigh Cuilinn, and we got to a few quarterfinals, we never got past them. Club hadn't been back to a semi-final since 1977, and hadn't been to hadn't ever won one. So yeah, it is hard to believe in many ways, but I suppose that goes back to the previous point we touched on. There's just a brilliant group of lads here that are really driving this on, and I suppose once they got that taste of it in 2020, teams can go one of two ways. You can feel you've gotten to the top and you've it all done, or you can feel you want to drive it on more. And even the years we haven't won it, we lost the semi-final in 21, and we lost the two finals in 23, 24. I think it just shows the resolve of the group to keep it rolling and keep it going. And I think that speaks as much about the group itself than Anton really, in that the two times we've got it back in 22 and in 25, it was after going so close the previous time.
When you think, I suppose, before the game, and I suppose extra time and the delay and everything, was did you find that? I suppose you were obviously in there. I seen you all arriving in for the second half, and it looked like the game was going to be finished. And I don't know if you've seen it back, but it was a ridiculous 2-pointer to send it to extra time. Was that disrupting or anything?
No, it's funny. Like, we had prepared on the Thursday evening when we did our last meeting, just for all the various bits and pieces that could happen. And that was one thing I mentioned to the lads, because I had looked at the Clore myself when it came out the week before that gets sent on to the clubs, and I could see that there wasn't space left to play extra time. And I think the previous year there had been, because the game was on TG Cahir and they were obviously bound to certain times. It's the one thing I wasn't too put out about the 7:30 throw in time myself. I thought that was okay, but it's the one thing I would maybe see, could the county board change for future times, is if playing a game beforehand like that, just leave the finishing time of the previous game with enough time to play extra time, present a cup and everything, because it's not ideal when you're pushing it out like that. Now, having said that, we kind of had in the back of our minds that it was going to happen, or it could happen, sorry. And then I didn't see the 2-pointer myself, but we'd one of the backroom team just popping out. And when they came in, it was actually, I think there was a bit of a laugh broke out in our dressing room, because we'd been kind of half expecting it. And we just reset, and it was actually a really calm dressing room. And that was one thing we had in the lead up to this game. And maybe that's what showed in our start to the match as well. Just really calm, and we just reset, lads, just relax. We sat around the dressing room. There was a good energy, but no one was getting too excited. And then once we got back into the timing of what we needed to do, we just restarted again. And I think that worked well for us. But it is the kind of thing that could throw a team off if you didn't plan for it and manage it the right way, I'd say.
You mentioned there getting your hands back on the county title. Do you feel you did anything differently than this year?
Um, Look at there's always little tweaks and always little bits and pieces. I think the fact that the rules changed is probably something that finds it harder to find those things. Do you know what I mean? In terms of the overall setup we have, it was very similar. There's myself, Kieran Murphy, Henry Lydon, Gabriel Collins, James Farty, Ian Kenny, Gavin, Ryan. We're all there in the back room doing our bit. James O'Toole doing physio as well. Um, Last year we had Mark McHugh, and obviously with Westmeath and everything, he couldn't be with us this year. So we brought in Brian Roach from an S&C point of view, who's from Cartoon, and he was excellent. And I mean, if you are looking to little changes that we made in terms of the S&C side, I think our the fitness levels and just even the injury side of things, he definitely had a huge impact there in us. Um, so, like, overall, and obviously then much has been made of Caroline Currid's involvement with us. But I suppose, as I said to people that asked after the match, Caroline was involved with us in the background this year. It was very light touch, she would say herself. She's a busy woman, and she hasn't been involved with the team over the last year or so. But we're just very lucky that she's a good family friend of one of our selectors, Henry Lydon. So at the start of the year, through Henry, she was able to get involved with us and do bits of work with the lads throughout the year. And I would say it was massively impactful. It had a huge bearing on our overall mindset, and it brought something new to us that we hadn't done before. And I definitely think what she brought to us was huge. But in terms of the quantity, it was just a small bit of work that she did with us. So those are things that probably changed, but that's picking out a few small things. By and large, an awful lot stayed the same. And I just think the rules and the way things change on that front actually made a huge difference to us, and it allowed us to play a bit more football that maybe under the old rules we didn't always get the chance to do.
Yeah, you mentioned there your backroom team, obviously, bringing in Brian Roach. He's obviously been involved with Anna Down in the past, and St. Mary's down in Leitrim, and he's won county titles with them. Kieran Murphy as well, obviously moving on to Clare as well. You can see all the quality that's in that backroom team.
Oh yeah, well, Kieran has been involved now with Maigh Cuilinn this time around since 2022, and previous to that, he'd been out with Michael Donlan in kind of the mid-teens as well a bit. But like, I can't say enough about him as a coach or as a fella, but he is just top class, and his imprint is all over the team. Like, he's the main man on the pitch each night, deciding what we're doing in terms of coaching sessions and all that. So he's just top class. And then, yeah, Brian, as I said, Brian just brought something a little bit different to us, something that we hadn't had before. And his expertise is one thing, but just the way about him as well. The group took to him. He's an honorary Maigh Cuilinn man now, I think, at this stage. And look at, yeah, it was just having those types of guys in the backroom team are huge. But equally, like lads like Henry Lydon and James Farty, they're long-standing friends of mine that played football with me for years and know lots of football. Same with Ian Kenny and Gavin, they're and Gabriel. They're all there to advise or help or do their own little bit in their own way. And you can obviously what happens on the pitch has a huge bearing on the outcome on the night, but all throughout the year, all these little bits and pieces in the backroom team that help put it all together are huge as well.
For yourself, Carl, if I'm not wrong, you would have started up, I think, out in the boxes during games at the start initially when you were involved. But I suppose since you've moved down now to, I suppose, manager, and you're obviously there a few years now, did you find it a challenge at the start, and do you find it comfortable now being the manager?
Um, yeah, it definitely is. It comes with a lot more responsibility anyway. I suppose when I started off in 2018 with Don, um, we yeah, we were both just, I suppose, on the line, and I was doing my best bit to help and helping in whatever way you could. But like all the responsibility and the decision making lay with Don, and it's only when you step into those shoes you realize I suppose, the pressures and the job that it entails, So I suppose I had a good feel for it over the years, because that'd be one thing about Don, is that he was a great man to delegate and to get a person doing what they were best at. And there was, for me, I would have done a lot of our analysis and stats while still being on the pitch and on the line with Don. But yeah, stepping into it then in 2024, it definitely, it is a big step up, and anyone that goes from being involved in the team to then managing it, I think you'll find that is the case. But I suppose at this point now, 2 years in, probably getting used to it, but I don't think it gets any easier. I'll put it that way anyway.
Looking back on the game, I'm sure on the pitch it's obviously just pure relief. But since you've watched it back, how you felt since?
Yeah, watching it back is it's a strange experience, and I'm always one to I like to get watching a game as quickly as I can afterwards. Although in terms of celebrations and all that, it may be delayed it a bit for a day or so. But the, a game happens so quickly, and so many things are happening in front of you, and there's so many different things you go into a game where you're planning to watch for ABC, and after 5 minutes, that's changed into a whole three other things. So things can happen that you're just dying to get back and look at the video and see. So watching it back, the big thing that stood out to me was just the character of the lads in the 10 minutes. I think there's O'Deely got an unfortunate head injury there around 52nd or 53rd minute, and there's kind of a 2 or 3 minute stoppage there, and we're a point down at that stage. And I think you can see the lads just getting together, getting their heads around what they need to do for this last 5 to kind of 8 or 9 minutes. And we had got a pretty good start. That was one thing we targeted, and we achieved that. I suppose they had come back into it, but then Peter's two pointers for halftime gave us that bit of a cushion. And then it was in the third quarter, really, Saltill came at us with absolutely everything. And it was just in that last 10 minutes, then you can see when you watch it back, it's, the likes of Desi's left footed point and the 2 pointer and Sean Kelly's point, all these big plays, really, the lads just stood up and got them right.
The big plays in the finish, Carl, it's been a theme of all your games. The Tuam game, you could see it. Duke Derr game, you could see it. Is that something you went after, or is that just, do you feel how, I suppose, the games have maybe took on that pattern?
It's a little bit of everything, Paul. I suppose you'd be part of what you're working on there night to night on the pitch is for different scenarios and what to do. And I suppose that's where a lot of your patterns and game plan and all these things feed into it. I think ultimately, when you have players like Sean Kelly, David Wynne, Desi, Peter Cook, these kind of guys on the pitch, Niall Walsh, all these guys, Johnny, Tom Clark, there's only so much you can plan for or have set plays or any of these things. Ultimately, in them really, really big plays against high quality opposition like Tuam or Salthill, you're relying on, I suppose, lads collectively on the pitch doing the right thing, and then individuals standing up and just executing right. And I suppose when you go back to that last 5 minutes, execution is what it's about. Desi nails a left footed point. He kicks a 2 pointer off the ground, and Sean Kelly scores his left foot. And even in that second half, Niall Walsh's point with his left foot, like they're all scores off them lads' perceived weaker feet in big plays. And I think really just a lot of it comes down to the individual work that them lads put in on those small things that make the big difference in them big plays.
I heard you talking about Sean after the game. about, I suppose, him taking a bag of balls and after training,
Mm.
and it just showed, I think, a real insight into him there. And the goal he got in the first half was an unbelievable finish, and even the point laid on too.
Yeah, like I remember saying that afterwards. Like to me, he's just he's just the most outstanding player, and I'm delighted for him on a personal level that he played so well. He was man of the match. He has driven this team and led this team a lot over the last few years, but in particular this year. And between the few All Ireland finals with Galway and a couple of injuries. He was injured he got injured the week before the county final in 23. I just felt like it was just the perfect time now for Sean to stand up and do this. But like as I said afterwards, it those kind of things just don't happen, or he didn't just swing a left leg at it. The man worked so hard on his game that it's incredible. And to think of the levels that he has reached at in terms of his football and his athletic ability over the last few years, like, and yet he's still there night after night working on these things. Like I've seen him kick them points, the one in the first half with the right and the one in the second half with the left. I've seen him kick them night after night at the end of training. He just goes off kicking himself. So I think it's as good a signpost to any young fella or any young girl out there that's training. It's like working on these things. There's only so much your coaches and managers can do collectively as a team. You're training maybe 2-3 hours a week on the pitch. It's what lads do outside of that on their own, I think, is what has big a bearing on these things as Anthony.
I mentioned the dream start there. You're 111 to 1-6 up with the break. You must have been pretty happy at halftime.
Yeah, like if you give anyone, I think, a 5 point lead at halftime in a county final, they'll take it. I certainly would have anyway. Coming into it that night, I think. I know we were definitely behind in 2024 at halftime because we just conceded the goal and a few points just before halftime, and I think we were down a point in 2023 as well. So that would have been something we had a few goals going out there and coming in 5 points up. That was a big boost, but it was a funny wind on the night. It at times you felt it was having a bearing. At other times you could see from the flags it just drop. So it didn't feel like one of these leads that we had the wind and now we have to go out and play against it. Although at times the wind did play a little bit like that. But yeah, 5 points up at halftime, we were happy with. But you look at little things there too. Desi misses a 2 point free, and we were maybe at the time a little bit aggrieved about the penalty. So you're kind of feeling this could have been more, and the danger Saltail have. So we never felt it was a sizable cushion. It was just one that heading into that second half, it was good to have.
Yeah, I mentioned the second half. Obviously, Michael Kidd hits the crossbar in that period, but in fairness to Matthew Thompson as well, some of the scores he kicked during that period were outstanding. Robert Walzer comes on, he puts them 114 to 113 ahead. But as I mentioned, then Desi's point is 2 point free, and Sean Kelly's point ultimately the difference then.
Yeah, and like, look, you mentioned Matthew Thompson and a few of the Saltail lads there. Like, look, they have an excellent team there, and anyone that saw the way Matthew Thompson played on Saturday night, would if they didn't already realize that in him anyway, Galway have a seriously special player, and I think everyone from Maigh Cuilinn recognized and was talking about that as well afterwards. His display was outstanding, and so was a number of the Saltail lads. And look, they were missing John Maher, and we had the same with Sean in 2023. It's a tough place to go into a final, but look, I think they played absolutely brilliantly, and it's as you said, hitting a crossbar, and then we go down and get an equalizer. The margins are just so fine in these big games. I felt it was a very high level game of football. It was end to end. The pace was serious, and in those games, the smallest thing can turn it, and we saw that on Saturday night.
Is it hard sort of for it to sink in when you're on the pitch Saturday night because there's so much happening? Obviously, it's great being around your supporters, but as a group, is it sort of hard for it to sink in when there's so much happening on the pitch? I suppose after the match.
Yeah, it is one of them. massive mix of emotions, really. I mean, relief is probably the overriding one. That's a big one in the sense that it's such a long year and it's such a build up then. I think the Galway Championship runs really well. That 2 week to 2 week period is really good. But the minute the final whistle goes in the semi final and you've won, like everything just turns to 2 weeks time and everything's building up towards that. And then, getting to the match in one sense is an achievement. You're trying to get a bunch of players there without any injuries. You get there, the ball is thrown in, and then a whole other 60 minutes of just pure drama unfolds. So when that final whistle goes and you're on the right side of it, it's just pure relief. And like, obviously then you're meeting family, friends and everyone from the village and there's elation and everything like that. So yeah, I don't think you fully take it all in until maybe you sit back a few days later and you start looking back or you start hearing the stories. But it just relief is the big one I felt anyway.
Connacht obviously to come next now. Shamrock Gales entering your thoughts now in the Connacht quarter final. With this county title, do you park it to one side now and begin to think about Connacht, or how will you approach it?
Yeah, I think for us having been there in 2022 is it's a massive benefit for us because, you know, 2020 obviously there was no Connacht campaign due to COVID. 2022 then, not that it was bonus territory, but it was a whole new endeavor, and it was like that first day going up to play Westport and Castlebar was kind of a great new thing, and then you find yourself into a semi-final and a final, and like it was a brilliant journey, and I think we'll benefit massively this time around from experiencing that and knowing what it's like. I think at this point now, having won our third one, definitely in terms of celebrating or anything like that, it's great. We've won it. We've enjoyed the last few days, but we know now what's ahead of us, and we're very much keen to knuckle down and focus on going as far as we can in the rest of the competition. And we know from the last few years, um, with the competition that Corofin or Mount Bellew had come up against over these last few years, it's Connacht is very, very, very hard. Obviously, you're facing teams that A, you don't know a whole pile about, and B, it's hard to get too much information on them either. Nowadays with streaming, you might get a video here and there, but I think you just have to concentrate in your own game, your own mindset, and just go really hard for it.
Does it feel like 2022 was a missed opportunity, but do you sort of look back and maybe think the potential was there because that game against Glen in that whole early semi-final was so close?
Oh, without a doubt. It's anytime you go that far and you get that close in the semi final to a team who ultimately, nearly won it 2 weeks later and then did a year later. We knew that. I suppose one thing is that it gave us great confidence that as a unit and as a team, we have a team to compete at that level. The second thing, which we'll probably only find now as we get into this Connacht campaign and hopefully if we could go further, is I suppose the experience it would give you. Like if you do get to the latter stages of a Connacht campaign, you're playing football right into November, early December, weather is bad. There's all sorts of challenges around that. And if you go further again, then you have to contend with the kind of a 5 week lead into All Ireland semi final in January. So I think the one thing we'll use about 2022 is just it's an experience we can rely on and things we did well, things we might improve. And these are all little things that we'll just probably be referring back to. But no more than looking back at previous county finals, we won or lost. You can't be dwelling too much on what happened either. I think, even look at last year there, Coolera come after Pierce's maybe, surprise Corofin and then Coolera surprised Pierce's. So these are all tricky games. You just got to take it each game and, if you get through to the next round, just double down again.
It's what makes the club game so special, isn't it? There's this David versus the Goliath. It happens a lot more often at club and as well, even for the parish of Maigh Cuilinn, like if there's the potential here to go on the run, it definitely does make the winter a lot shorter.
It does, yeah. That's exactly what the fans and older people would say to me too. Is that they've already now something to look forward to. We're going to, we're going to Tubbercurry in 2 weeks' time, and people are looking up dates of when other games might be on. And for us, we can't be even contemplating or looking at that. But for fans, I think they probably get the most out of that. For us, we've just one thing to concentrate on now, and that is Sunday week against Shamrock Gales. That's all we're looking at. Whereas I think for fans, it gives them that little bit of an extra chance to be looking ahead and getting excited. And as you said, just something to look forward to. It shortens the winter, and we'll aim to make it as short as possible for them if we can.
Just finally, then, Carl, just a word on Don. Did you do anything to remember him this year? Obviously, it came at a difficult time, and you could even see by David's speech how much he meant to the parish of Maigh Cuilinn.
Yeah, look, I think David's speech was absolutely brilliant, and he put much better words on it than I could ever. But the loss of Don was just a massive, massive hole across this team, across the club, and across the parish. Like, that's the reality of it. And I never saw an outpouring of just such grief and such so many people that came from all over the country. Like, Don knew so many people from so many different facets of his life, from football to being a guard to being from Roscommon. So, like, when Don passed away first, that was one big thing for us to deal with around that time. It came between the Barney game and the Clannon game. And so that was probably the hardest period of time to manage going into that Clannon game. And, thankfully getting over that game was a huge thing for us. And then after that, like we very much, like, Don has been with us in our own little way. We've had our own ways of keeping Don in all our memory as we go into these games. But you have to be awful careful too, as a group, that you do it in the right way and that you don't do it to the detriment of emotions and all these things going into a game. So, like, at a football level, we tried to do it in a certain way. And then at a personal level, just Don would have been a big part of so many people's lives on that panel. And that could be from guys that worked with them like Niall or Tom and were best friends of them, through to younger lads that would have brought into the squad over the last few years. So at a football level, he's kind of in your mind the whole time. Then at a personal level, there's obviously a big hole there that people would be missing him and thinking of him the whole time. And we just, that was the one, as I mentioned, relief earlier on, but it was the one big thing that we felt the way to honour him was by winning that cup. And that ultimately, we all knew in our hearts and minds, without having any big speeches or sayings, that was going to be one big way. That'd be, if Don could plan it in a certain way, that's what he would have wanted. And we're just delighted to be able to have done that on Saturday.
Great stuff, Carl. Well, thanks very much for coming on, and the very best of luck in Connacht.
Thanks a million, Paul. Cheers.
Now in part two of the show, I'm joined by Caltra manager Gabriel Naughton. Gabriel, intermediate champions, how have the celebrations in Everton been over the last few days?
They've been very, very good, Paul. Very enjoyable. Celebrations for county final winners run into certainly Mondays and most of them Tuesday now. And I wasn't involved yesterday. I don't think they ran to Wednesday, but there was certainly a lot of celebrating done on Sunday night and on Monday and Tuesday. And Asher, look, it's just fantastic when one has an opportunity to celebrate a county final success at whatever level. So we weren't found wanting in that regard.
Has it sunk in yet?
Maybe. I was back to work for a while yesterday and today, and maybe a little bit now. I suppose hadn't really thought about just actually playing the senior teams next year. But yeah, we were close last year, as you know, and came up short after two great battles with St. Michael's. So even though, as I said in some of the interviews afterwards, we kind of came from nowhere last year to make it to the final, and whilst losing last year was very disappointing, we would have still seen last year as a success. And obviously there was no guarantees in terms of getting back this year. So it is certainly very, very sweet But I think it's only beginning to sink in now, to be honest.
Just even going back, and I seen a couple of the videos on the Caltra GA social media and the scenes of everything. I suppose going back to your local pub and everything, celebrating and walking down the road and bringing the cup and everything. I'd say they were some really special moments.
Yeah, so we stopped off in Barney Jarrig for a bite to eat after the game, and then we headed back to Caltra um, in Cavalcade after that. So we were back in the village quite early, but we parked up at the National School, which is a few hundred meters the Montpellier side of the village, and we as a collective then obviously walked into the village, and that was certainly that's certainly something that will stick in my mind for a long time. There was a really good crowd in the village, and obviously there was plenty of bonfires. We had decided at that stage that we were going to park the tour of the I suppose of the parish until Monday evening. Because even though obviously it's a small club, I mean it still runs from Castleblakeney through Caltra over to Ahaskra and back around to Fona and Castleblakeney, and we kind of felt at that stage the tour was going to take quite some time, and rather than do it on Sunday night, because we really wanted to hang out obviously in the village, we parked that until Monday evening. But yeah, just walking back into the village and having a really good crowd there to receive us. That was, as I said a moment ago, something that will stick in the memory for a long time.
How does it feel now to be a senior team for 2026?
Look, sure, it feels really good. I remember very clearly when we got relegated in 2018, and having been a senior club for quite a number of years, it's massively disappointing. And look, at our first few years in intermediate football were difficult, really difficult. And I suppose it's only in the last, I mean, look, obviously the lads and myself have been involved. This has been our fourth year. First year we lost a game, won a game, and drew against Brannock's in the last game, but didn't qualify from the group. And then 2 years ago, obviously we got to the quarterfinal, but came up really short against Ilan Aaron in the stadium. But we had seen some progress nonetheless in the first 2 years, and then obviously big step forward last year in making it to the final. So I think there's been good progression, but still, like, I suppose when you reflect on it now, the fact that we've won and we're now talking about ourselves as a senior club, it's a massive achievement.
You probably weren't thinking about it in the lead up to the game, but nearly a lot comes after you win the intermediate, doesn't it? When you consider obviously senior team, and I'm sure you're beginning now maybe to think about the Connacht Championship as well.
Yeah, to be honest, probably only today that we're just giving some thought to Kilmina. There's a couple of guys in the management team. They've already been looking at some of their videos and just reading up some match reports. We'll certainly do some further work on that over the next day or two and into the weekend. That's really something to look forward to right now. But in the immediate aftermath of the game, that's the furthest thing from your mind. You just want to sort of live in the moment and enjoy it, and obviously enjoy the couple of days afterwards, because they're so unique and so rare and so special. But yeah, look, we'll obviously give some thought to that over the next couple of days. We're back training tomorrow night and Sunday morning, and that'll be, I suppose, an opportunity maybe just to come back down to earth a little bit, and as I said, give some thought to that game on Sunday week.
Have you watched back the game with Spittle yet?
Oh, I've watched it back 3 or 4 times. Yeah. I suppose the streaming of the game makes it so much easier now, and it's really high quality, and then obviously there's a lot of edited footage as well. So look, I don't think that'll ever get tired, Paul.
Yeah, are you able to make much sense of it yet, or does it maybe take more couple of watches to make more sense of, I suppose, what unfolded throughout that game?
Yeah, there was a lot going on, particularly in the second half. Maybe in the first quarter, kind of teams are kind of just sort of feeling each other out. We're just looking to see if our matchups are working. Manus had kicked a couple of 2-pointers. We got a few points from play. Coming up to half time, it was 8-6. They got the last score. The breeze was difficult to read, and like even we had kind of decided beforehand that if we won the toss, we'd play against the breeze. But quite honestly, even during the warm up, it was really kind of swirling around, and it was difficult enough to read. So, and I don't think really it had that big of an impact in the game. Like we were reasonably successful ourselves as Spiddle in terms of kicking 2-pointers in both halves. So, but in the second half, so like went in just one up at half time, 8-7. Reasonably happy, I suppose, with our performances. I think probably Spiddle would have been also, and then you're just looking at 30 minutes to try and make it back to senior. But the second half, I mean, there was a lot going on during that second half. Look, there was a number of obviously decisions that I would say there were tight calls rather than incorrect calls, but there was certainly a number of tight calls that kind of went against us. And I suppose at that stage you're beginning to think, we could come up short because those tight decisions have gone against us rather than we not playing well. And just as the second half wore on, they went 3 up. We brought it back to 1. They were 2 up. They went back 3 up. We brought it back to 2. It was nerve-wracking, to be honest. They had introduced a couple of subs maybe a little bit earlier than we had in the second half. I thought the penalty was obviously a big moment in the game. It gave them a 3-point lead, and we brought it back to 2. Then they brought it back to 3 again. So like with 5 minutes to go, it looked like they had the initiative. And as I said, the last couple of moments, it took a couple of really big plays from us to get over the line. Look, I suppose at the time and at full time, you're just kind of caught up with the whole emotion of it and the success. Having watched the game back a couple of times now, you've got a little bit more time to reflect on those big plays in the second half. And like as I said, a couple of times, we needed a couple of really big plays to win the game, and we just got them at the right time.
From a management and coaching point of view, the way the goal was worked, Gabriel, of Mikey leaping up for it, the ball falling to Robbie Green, and an unbelievable finish for him. You must have been really pleased, because even when that penalty went in, it was 45 minutes, and as you mentioned, Spiddle being in the lead, but that play to get the goal at the end, it was just a terrific piece of play.
Yeah, look, obviously we kind of picked Mikey at 14, but he's been obviously playing quite a bit around the middle of the field for us. For quite a bit of the games, we were ending up, particularly having lost Sean with just 2 inside. Look at I said earlier, like for a young guy, he's got a really fantastic leap, and he's got a huge future ahead of him. But I suppose what was a little bit unique about it, like, it was almost in one movement. He won the ball facing the goal, but by the time he landed and was beginning his next play, he was facing the opposition goal. And he just looked up. As I said earlier, Robbie had kind of drifted away from Finian and just had found some space, and just an accurate punt kick, and he immediately found Robbie, and our 2 inside guys were inside, and obviously were being picked up by their 2-man markers, and it just continued to open up as he took a sole on a bounce and brought the ball into the 21 and then into the 13, and there wasn't really an option to offload it, because the 2 inside guys were still being picked up, so he just had to go for it, and like he just kicked it so neatly and so accurately into the corner. I don't think even a goalkeeper as good as Manus was going to save it.
What are you thinking when Fillin then has that, I suppose, goal chance then right at the death for Anspidel?
Yeah, I suppose you're still a little bit caught up in the emotion of having been behind for a lot of the second half, and now you're leading and trying to protect the lead, and you're looking at the clock and counting down the seconds. So yeah, there was obviously a number of Espidal players involved in the movement, and there was actually a lot of bodies around. So from where I was watching it, it was difficult enough to see, but like it was very close, and I suppose these are the very fine margins, obviously in a tight game, and I think those things went against us last year. Um, like I don't think we played particularly well first day in the drawn match against St Michael's. I thought we played much better the second day. Um, Obviously there was a sending off before full time in the Michael's game last year, and obviously we eventually ran out of legs in the second half of extra time last year. But again, it was really fine margins, and it was the same last Sunday. And as I said, having sort of reclaimed the lead with the goal, you're kind of caught up in sort of switching your thinking from we needed a score to just running down the clock and trying to get over the line. And like they came down close to getting a goal themselves, and that would have been very difficult to stomach if you had scored it.
Does this maybe show how the team has maybe learned from last year? I know when I was chatting to you before the final, obviously you've lost Sean Kane this year as well, and even the last day bringing in key subs, the last day making an impact. But do you feel that this maybe shows what your team has learned from last year?
Yeah, certainly. I think they've learned a lot from last year. But I think, as I said earlier, okay, like obviously we've introduced like most clubs a couple of players each year, but a lot of the group have been together for 4 years now. And obviously some of the older players, had played senior football before, like Owen O'Kelly and Luke Burke. Um, but I think like as I said, the first couple of years maybe of our 4 year term, our performances in championship were only okay. Big improvement last year, and obviously we've continued that this year. But so I think there's been a steady learning curve, and a steady incremental year on year improvement in performance. And yeah, I think some of the players would have commented that certainly the learnings from last year would have helped to get over the line. Um, and it's still a relatively young squad. Like a lot of the players, like we mentioned Michael Ryan at 19. Like we've got a number of other players starting on that team that are 20, 21, 22. Luke Burke, Owen Kelly would be the older guys. They're still only 30.
Just on Owen Kelly and Luke Burke, then how important have they been to this team, considering I suppose they have that experience of playing senior football?
Ah, yeah, look at massively, Paul, and obviously they fill two pivotal positions as well at 6 and 11. And look at Owen would have played quite a bit of midfield also, but they're quite unassuming guys, but really good guys in terms of creating the sort of environment that makes it easy for younger players to come into the group. Um, they're not, there's no airs or graces about them. The fact they've been around the squad for quite a while, they see the criticality of the club being able to introduce a number of young players every year, and they've just got a really good temperament about them. There's never any drama with them. As I said, they can work very closely with us in creating the sort of environment that we want for players to enjoy and develop.
I was asking the same question to Cathal Clancy earlier on when I had him on the podcast, just about when you win that county title. I'd say it's nearly hard to even let it sink in and maybe draw a breath when you have, I suppose, that many people on the pitch and going around meeting everyone after the game.
Ah, yeah, sure. Look at it. It's just manic. Um, yeah. Look at. I suppose I don't know why, but the immediate feeling when the final whistle goes is you just want to run crazily onto the field and start hugging guys. Um, and the first 2 or 3 minutes, obviously, immediately after the final whistle, that's what ends up happening. Um, and obviously I've got two of my own sons involved in the panel. I was looking to try and seek them out as quickly as I could. Um, but yeah, look, they're minutes of your life that you'll remember for forevermore. They're very, very special.
Obviously, I mentioned earlier on about Connacht coming up for yourselves, but your ladies have Connacht coming up now as well, and it probably shows. I suppose it's going to be a special few weeks for the clubs when you consider that to have two teams in the Connacht Championship now.
Yeah, I think we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, Paul. Yeah, our ladies obviously have been a senior team for maybe 12 or 13 years, and got relegated last year, but thankfully have come back. Also against the odds, because they lost three players this year that were involved with Galway senior ladies to injury. So they've showed a lot of resolve and resilience to go back up senior. So they actually won their county final, obviously, on the morning that we played our semi-final against Corofin. So I would have commented before that you had supporters making it down to Headford to see them playing in their county final before coming back to Tuam and watching us play in the semi-final. So yeah, look, there's a great buzz around. And then obviously, Ascarfona were involved in the Senior B hurling final as well, and the ladies share more dual players than the men do at the moment. But even with that, we had 5 players last weekend that would have togged out and with the Ascarfona the previous weekend. So it's been a fairly manic few weeks for the parish.
Is there a feeling now to want to, I suppose, give Connacht a fair rattle now? I suppose you don't always know with these competitions when you're going to be in it again. And if you look back through the years, when Caltra have got into a Connacht Championship, they've had a successful record here.
Yeah, I think the one thing we can be fairly sure about is that opportunities like these are for us are rare. So yeah, look at it is. Look, it's nice, I suppose, with the success from last weekend. It's nice to be able to go and talk out to play another game in a week and a half's time. That said, our objective was to get back and play senior football. We've achieved that objective. So look, we'll sit down with the players tomorrow night. We'll have a chat about it. And we'll certainly put our focus on it then. But we still see it as really just a big bonus, having won what we wanted to win this year. That said, and I'm sure it's the same for the other teams in the intermediate championship in Connacht, they will want to win a few games and try and go on a run. But I know it's a cliche, but for us now, it's trying to get the guys back in the best shape possible for Sunday week, and hoping again we get a good performance and it's a good game of football. And if we get to play the following week in a Connacht semi-final, well then that would be great.
Just finally, Gabriel, to have that game in Tuam against Kilmina, good to have it in Tuam again.
Yeah, it is. We obviously, you're aware. Or most people are aware now that we had a couple of regulars that was unavailable last weekend. I think we've probably picked up a couple of injuries from the game last weekend as well. So we really need to see, I suppose, what we have tomorrow night when we get guys back together and just assess a couple of recent injuries from last weekend and see what we have. But look, I'm sure, because as you said a moment ago, Paul, it's a rare opportunity to play club levels, club football, obviously, against clubs from other counties in a Connacht Championship. I'm sure the players will be keen to give a good account of themselves, and we'll try and get obviously the strongest team we can on the field and see where we get to.
Great stuff. Well, Gabriel, thanks a million for your time and best of luck in the Connacht series. Joined now by Maigh Cuilinn captain David Wynne. David, how did that feel going up the steps and lifting the county title?
There are no words, honest to God. It's a state of euphoria I never thought I'd experience. Unbelievable, what a battle. Salthill absolutely rattled into us. Could have went either way, but we came out on top. It feels like someone was watching down us, so it's phenomenal. Am I Riley, boy?
Just on the last 2 years and losing the last 2 finals, does it make this one extra sweet?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Listen, we'll never complain. When you win, you deserve it. When you lose, that's what happens. You suck it up and you move on. But the resilience shown by this group to come back year on year, it'll be very easy to just throw your hat at it. Lads, give up. Travelling lads, give up. 101 different things to be part of this. So everyone rode in this year, and it's just phenomenal. The people and their support system get this reward tonight.
There must be a lot of character in the group, because no doubt the last 2 days have been disappointing, and to keep coming back, what do you think kept this group coming back?
It's just an unbelievable resilience. As individuals, everyone has their own individual story of hurt and pain and reasons to be out there. No more than Salthill and no more than every other group, but look, we really came together this year. We gave it everything we had, and we came out the right side of it. So we're over the moon.
Dream start, wasn't it?
Dream start, unbelievable start. But we knew the way the game is now, the players, the quality of Salthill, they were always going to have their purple patches. So it was just about facing up to it, accepting it when it came, and just keep plugging on. And it was always going to turn, and it turned in our favour, and we came out the right side, so we're buzzing.
Going down the stretch there, Desi's 2-point free was unbelievable. Sean Kelly even driving forward for that score as well.
Yeah, they're just phenomenal players. Shawnee, Desi, James McLaughlin coming in there, Ger Davern, the shift he put in, Tom Clark for 40 minutes, Mikey Mahan, Alex, I could name everyone, Pierce Greeley, what character, every kick out was bang, exactly when it was supposed to go. He hit a short one in the corner. It's just, these games come down to moments, 100 moments, and everyone stood up today, so I'm so proud of everyone.
That was some battle out there, I'd say, even playing in the half-back line here to even draw a breath and even make sense of it.
Exactly, I have no idea what happened, my life flashed before my eyes when that ball went off the crossbar, so it's just end-to-end, and that's the way the game is at the minute. It's brilliant, it's total chaos. You want to be in it coming down the stretch, and then hopefully come out the right side, and we were lucky enough we did today.
Did you remember Don this year? Was he in your thoughts, or was there anything done, I suppose, to remember him?
Yeah, there was early on in the year when it happened. We obviously acknowledged it, but we're very conscious that you're not going to win games just purely focusing on that. So we used Don early to drive on training. We brought a motto with us, Nolly Timere, which means "Don't be afraid." It was said at his funeral. So we brought that to the group and used it every day we went out. And I think you could see it there today. Everyone, no one shied away from it. When the battle came, everyone stood up and walked into it. So it's amazing.
Celebrations are going to be good tonight?
They're going to be good tonight, yeah. Jim Regan's.
Joined now by Carna Cashel manager John Cashel. John, how are the emotions after last night?
Difficult to describe. I'd say elation comes to mind initially after the final whistle. It's hard to believe. It's something that we're kind of used to over the last couple of games. So we've done the last 3 games, we've done to the wire, and I'm so delighted that the lads pulled it off, because I think our fitness stood to us. It's something we've worked hard on, and they just kept going to the bitter end. I mean, I thought there was moments in that game I was worried. I was really worried. I was thinking, this Williamstown out for their better off. And I was watching on tapes the pieces I'd seen of them, but they had some fantastic players. They had some opportunities to put us away, but we just kept digging and digging and digging, and I'm just over the moon, to be honest with you, Paul. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen such a big Carna Cashel crowd in Pearse Stadium, even there trying to get down the steps after it. They travelled in their numbers, and you could hear every score they were shouting on.
Yeah, I didn't expect that much in, to be honest. When I looked around, I guess with the combination of the other final as well, and all their fans in. But there was a big call from Carna Cashel, and I'm saying I'm delighted that they're all there, all the faces. It's brilliant. It reminds me of when I was a player as well. We had some success. Just what it means, to the local, person following that their parish, which is everything. You have club football and whatnot, but this is just raw emotion. Yeah.
After years of trying now to be junior county champions, I know there's one more to come, but you're not thinking of that now. But you came through a battle against Foley Griffin's Hero, and now to win the junior county title, it obviously means so much.
It does so much now. Yeah, at least at this stage, there's the bonus of representing Galway as junior champions in Connacht, but we will be, we'll have a steely focus next week on who obviously wins the games tomorrow, and then our other objective will be to possibly go up to intermediate. I mean, this is nice. This is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but we could easily be playing Williamstown again next year, unless we do something about it next week.
Yeah, obviously with that, when you look back the game overall, you started really well. Williamstown came back into it.
Yeah.
The 2-pointer to send it to extra time. I don't know if you've seen it back.
Yeah.
It's an outrageous score.
Well, he's very capable of it, but I mean, he's got a serious boot. He was off form today on the freeze, but usually he taps those over. But that was one of the best points I've seen in a long, long time, and I just couldn't believe it. My selector Sean was telling me it's over, and I couldn't believe it. I saw the orange flag raise, and I just couldn't believe it. And then the next kick out was extra time, and I think we pushed on a bit in extra time. I think our fitness stood to us, plus that 10 minutes, although we didn't play very well when they had the 10 minutes sin bin, or the black card. When we came back to 15 again, it looked like we were more focused. We knew what we were doing, and we held our shape a lot better. We had our centre forward holding that position, and we sprayed the ball pretty well. And lads were willing to do those hard runs that we've been asking them to do for the past 10 months, and this came to fruition there finally.
I think in the extra time you obviously missed a penalty during the game as well.
Yeah, I was debating with my selectors, wondering what should we do here. Was that one of them was saying, like, mathematically, if we throw it over the bar with 4 points up, it's only a 2-score game with the 2-pointer. So he said it's maybe worth a while going for goal. Like, we had no say in the matter. We just left it up to the full forward or Darren, and unfortunately, like, he put it wide. Like, I'd say he hasn't missed, like, that's the first penalty he's missed in a long time. But yeah, we had an opportunity after that again to kind of, the 4 point is a bit of even though there is 2-pointers now, it is a bit of a nail in that coffin. But thankfully we won a couple of kickouts, which was massive, which we weren't doing when Williamstown were on top. It's as if we had gone back to the game against Father Griffin Air Oak. We were losing the battle on breaks, but we came good. We came good in the end, which when it mattered. So I'm just absolutely over the moon, and I'm just delighted. Yeah, I can't express anymore. Excuse me.
Has it sunk in, or?
Well, it has sunk in. It didn't. I got. One of the fans came out there. My good mate Maigh Cuilinn came out, and he jumped up on me, and my neck is killing me since. Like, I don't know what has happened, but yeah, that brought it. I suppose the pain will ease off. Like, I'll feel it tomorrow. It's just with the high now of the victory, I'll be grand. Yeah.
You're obviously going to celebrate this tonight.
Sorry.
You're obviously going
to celebrate. Yeah, we will. Oh, we will. We'll celebrate this hard time. We'll go out. We'll watch this game here. Hopefully, it's a good game, and then we'll see. We might go and look. I don't know what we'll do tonight, but I know there'll be a lot of celebrating. Yeah.
Joined now by Dylan Seoighe after Carna Cashel's extra time victory over Williamstown. Dylan, how are you feeling after that?
Words can't really describe it, to be honest. I thought the game was over, to be honest, but then Dar slotted over a 2-pointer there, and after that we fully had belief that we could go on and win it, to be honest.
You once put years into trying to get to this stage and win a junior county championship. Obviously, it's not just this year. 2 or 3 years of effort have went into this.
Yeah, since I started playing in 2020, 2021, we've been putting in effort upon effort upon effort, and just been, I'd say, 7 or 8 lads or more involved with us to bring us to this stage, and finally we got over the line.
You can really see there what it means to Carna Cashel, the supporters, yourselves as players. What is the feeling now? Is it just pure relief?
A small bit of relief, but I suppose, as you can see, what it means for the community, the parish just means everything for the people. It's just massive.
Football is obviously huge from where you come from.
Yeah, we live and breathe football, to be totally honest.
Just reflecting on the game, can you make any sense of it?
It's all a blur, to be honest, but we got over the line, and that's the main thing, and we'll go on to next week and we'll focus on that Monday hopefully and get up to intermediate.
Just looking at the first half, they started really well, and then they came back into this level at the break, but then obviously you mentioned that 2-pointer early on. I don't know how you've seen it back, but it's a ridiculous score to send it extra time.
Yeah, I suppose we've been in these situations before, so we're kind of calm and we know how to get through them. And then once that score went over and we went to extra time, we fully had the belief to go on and win it.
Yeah, really impressive then in extra time. Obviously you missed a penalty with that, but just I suppose scores were the difference for the end.
Yeah, I suppose Dar was unlucky to miss his penalty, but he doesn't miss that many. But Definitely, yeah. We got a 2-pointer there in the first half of extra time, and that gave us a massive lift as well.
What are the celebrations going to be like?
Oh, words can't describe it. I don't think I can say it on camera either.
And obviously with that, it's a tricky one on one side. You obviously have to play off to come next week against Saladin to go to intermediate.
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to enjoy this. It's not often that you win a county title, but we will go and focus on that hopefully Monday.
In a few weeks as well, semi-final to come. It's nice one to look forward to.
That's another one to look forward to, but we'll keep going and we'll do our best to go all the way.